Good morning. Thank you to Tita and Director SDC for inviting me to speak about book publication process. I'll just introduce what the book publication process and what reputable publishers are, and that kind of the basic information what we really need for our promotions and appointments and all. So what I have to say at first. If you do have any questions, just interrupt me and ask at that time. Then you can get the things what I'm talking with more clarification. Okay. So what is this book publication process? The book is basically books are needed for disseminating information. Especially the academics, they have to write books. These books can be divided basically into the two parts, the aspects. The first one is the textbooks, the other one is the other scholarly publications based on research studies. So these are the two aspects, two types of books that the academics are generally publishing. Okay. Straight. What happened? It's not moving. Just give me a minute. Okay.
It's moving now.
Yeah, it's moving now. Yeah. Why do we need to publish? Basically, we need to publish for personal reasons, for personal happiness and achievements, and more readers, directed to the publications, more readers, when we have more readers, basically we will have, more citations, and leading to increased impact of individual research, more personal opportunities. That kind of, personal requirements are there. In addition to that, we do have, the academic and discipline-wise purposes. And one example is, if you want to repute in our particular field, we have to publish. And also we need, the recognition, and internal recognition as well as external recognition in the academia. And also we want to collaborate research opportunities with other organizations and other countries, and more funding and public funding opportunities. If we need more funding opportunities, we have to publish. And also the institutional benefits. What are the institutional benefits? Basically, that increase institutional impact. So if we publish more, a big prestige come to our institution where we are affiliated, and high institutional ranking, that leads to high institutional ranking. And also recognition and reputation of the institution. If a lot of people in Wayamba University are publishing books as well as research journals, more recognition will come to the institution. Not only for the people, actually, those who are really publishing, but to the institution as well. So these are the three basic categories of benefits that we can gain for publishing. Okay. Basically, scholarly books are issued by 6 types of publishers. Scholarly books are issued by 6 types of publishers. The first one is university presses. And then the second one is profit-making scholarly publishers. And then trade publishers. And then university centers and learned societies. Other one is vanity presses. And the final one is online publishing services. So these are the 6 types of publishers that they do publish scholarly work. Universities do have the university presses, but in Sri Lanka it's very difficult to see university presses. But majority of the universities around the world, they do have their own presses, like Oxford Press, the Cambridge Press, like that. And then profit-making scholarly publishers, those are the private commercial organizations, those who wants to make profit out of these publications. And then trade publishers are also there. And then some university centers and learn societies, professional organizations, they do publishing. And then vanity presses. That is, you know, I mean, the main objective of these presses are to gain profit, more and more profit. And online self-publishing services. So these are the 6 areas, 6 types of publishers that we can see in the field of, you know, scholarly publishing. These type of publishers differ in their refereeing procedure to some extent in the kind of work they publish. Because all these, you know, publishers are not using referencing procedure, refereeing procedure. Some of them use, you know, the refereeing procedure. Some of them do not use refereeing procedure. What is this refereeing procedure? If somebody has written a manuscript, so then, you know, we need to send it to the publisher, and then some publisher will arrange 2 or 3 referees to make sure whether our manuscript is publishable, whether our manuscript is good for publishing, whether our manuscript has, you know, worth of publishing. That to determine, you know, these kind of things, they basically appoint referees to evaluate the quality of our manuscript. This procedure is called refereeing procedure. But we can't see all these, you know, the publisher, all these 6 types of publishers are using these refereeing procedures. So it's, you know, to some extent in the kind of works they publish is different. In their approaches to me, and also, you know, that they are differ in their approaches to marketing. How do they market? How do they market? That is also different. You know, university presses marketing procedures are different, and profit-making scholarly publishers marketing procedures are different, and trade publishers entirely different, and self-publishing, that's completely different. So that is one of the differences. And also they differ in their contractual agreement. Contractual agreements that they make with authors. Basically, if we want to publish our manuscript, there should be a contractual agreement. Sometime, you know, we do call it author-publisher agreement. And author-publisher agreement is very important. You know, what are the benefits that we can gain from the publishing, and how do we get the royalties? And, you know, what are the obligations that we do have as an author and the publisher? That kind of, you know, all these legal and you know, the obligatory procedures should be very clearly indicated in the author-publisher agreements. So that is also very important. But, you know, these 6 type of different presses may have, you know, different contractual agreements. That is another difference. And also, despite some overlap, they serve different purposes. And authors should understand the difference before deciding where to seek publications. Authors need to, you know, understand what are the differences. What are the differences among these, you know, publishers? That is very important. So as I told you, you know, we do have university presses and profit-making commercial publishers and trade publishers, university centers and learned societies. That means, you know, professional organizations and vanity presses, and also online self-publishing services. Okay, but they are differ in their refereeing procedure and approaches to marketing and contractual agreements, as well as, you know, their objectives. So we have to, you know, think of all these things, all these differences when we decide where to publish. And university presses. University presses are the main outlet for book length scholarly work. A lot of, you know, the university presses, they have very prestige name even, you know, very prestigious places. They are, you know, procedures are, you know, well recognized. And many universities, you know, around, especially in the Europe, they do have their own presses, like Cambridge, Oxford, Harvard, and in a lot of places. And they are non-profit publishers. Their main objective is not to make, you know, the big profit, but that's why actually they are called non-profit publishers. And most university presses are self-supporting or have a small part of their cost underwritten by the sponsoring institutions and by occasional grants from private foundations or government agencies. Basically, most of these university presses are funded by the university itself, or otherwise they get, some sponsorship from other institutions or the industry. To provide their services. That is why actually they are called non-profit publishers. Some have raised general endowment or endowments for books in certain fields. Some, university presses are mainly dependent on donations, endowments. Especially, endowments in certain disciplines. For an example, if some disciplines like medicine, nanotechnology, engineering are very important. It's very easy to raise general endowments or specific endowments for those particular fields. So they use that one. And about 100 university presses in the United States and Canada belongs to the Association of American University Presses. And that is, one of the very prestigious association, of which many university presses are members. So the quality and the procedures of those university presses are extremely high. Okay, a university press disseminate knowledge by publishing books and journals in print and electronic format. So they basically publish books and journals in print mode as well as the electronic formats. Okay. But there's a misconception among the people actually regarding these university presses, because that is the university presses exist to publish books by the faculty of its own university. That's not, that's true. Many people think that, we can't publish because we are outsiders. That service basically is for only the faculty members. That's a misconception. That's wrong. Anybody can publish actually if we do have a manuscript with a great value. Okay. Although most presses encourage home faculty to submit manuscripts and do try to publish their work when it is worthwhile, all manuscripts are subject to the same reasonably impartial refereeing process. So no matter whether you are a senior academic or a professor or a senior professor, or you are a outsider or the home faculty or outsider, but there's a very strictly formulated procedure for refereeing. So that procedure should be adopted. No matter, you are a prestigious, the one of the well-known or the renowned researcher or a writer, but this refereeing procedure is being basically, mainly adopted by the university presses. That is the, main importance of this. And also works from outside the university are treated the same way as are those from within. Okay, there is no difference. Because this misconception is so widely held, many authors avoid their home presses for fear that colleagues will regard the publication of their manuscript as a favor. But that's not true. Okay, none of the colleagues will get a favor. So all are being treated equally. So that is the, the main importance of university presses. But their main objective is, everything should be refereed. Everything should be refereed. No matter whether you are a prestigious or very senior or renowned person in that particular field of study or the discipline. The refereeing procedure should be adopted. And then the commercial publishers. The commercial, scholarly or professional publishers issues books for scholars in certain disciplines or a specific professional group, such as practitioners in the behavioral, medical, physical, and life sciences, or in business or engineering. Okay, commercial publishers basically think, the publishing in commercial aspect. They are profit-making organizations. They don't want to, do it in free of charge or, without making profit. That's what actually. So they do have, I mean, main focus on very particular field of studies, agriculture, then, you know, the biomedical sciences and the physical sciences, the businesses, or engineering. But they don't, you know, I mean, mainly, they don't focus. They don't want to, you know, focus, especially some fields which have not been, you know, expanded particularly. For an example, you know, if I want to, you know, publish a book written in Sinhala language, you know, I mean, if we send it to a commercial publisher in a foreign country, they don't want to do, because they think all these things in a profitable a market aspects. Then, you know, I mean, they don't want to publish. So that is the, you know, the main drawback of commercial scholarly publishers. Okay. And for an example, one subgroup is sometimes referred to as STM publishers. That is an abbreviation for scientific, technical, and medical. So they publish only, you know, the manuscripts come under scientific, technical, and medical fields. So STM publishers, they often publish books in series, Academic Press, Wiley InterScience, Wiley, Rollgate, Addison Wesley, as some of the good example for this. And also, you know, I mean, Elsevier's, Methuen, and Springer. So these publishers are commercial publishers, but their main aim is to make profits. Okay, that is the main drawback, you know, compared to university presses. The selection process of these publishers are similar to those of university presses, except they do not have faculty committees. But, you know, I mean, even the commercial publishers, they do have a refereeing process, the selection process for publishing. Okay, even though they don't have faculty committees to determine whether our manuscript is worthwhile for publishing, they do have, you know, another committees or, you know, I mean, people to, you know, promote refereeing process. Instead, individual editors and editors committees make decisions based on the referee reports, because they do have individual editors for different aspects, for proofreading and for, you know, acquisition, and, you know, and editorial committees they do have to make decisions especially based on the referee's report. Their decision can therefore be made more quickly, although this is not always the case. Some commercial scholarly publishers are not truly selective. That is, you know, the main drawback. Some commercial scholarly publishers are not truly selective. Okay, their peer review process may be pro forma, and they may accept virtually every manuscript submitted, because their main objective is to you know, make profit. But very few publishing houses are doing like that. But the majority of the commercial publishers do have very strictly formulated refereeing process. Okay, these, you know, I mean, the few people normally they like to ask for subvention from the authors. They are likely to ask for subventions for the author. It is therefore extremely important to evaluate these presses very carefully if you are going to publish your manuscript. It's very important to, you know, I mean, evaluate these publishers, these presses very carefully, whether they do have, you know, whether they do have a main objective of asking subventions from authors. Okay, if they are asking subventions from authors, so we don't think that is a good publishing house. Okay, and look at large sample of their books in the field and ask your colleagues or department heads about their reputation before publishing. Okay, that is very important. And trade publishers. And who are the trade publishers? Basically, academic authors may wish to work with trade publishers. They are, you know, I mean, basically they are the people, those who are, you know, publishing trade magazines and all. Okay, the trade publishers issues notification that is of interest of the general public, but not for mainly scholarly purposes. Okay, but they are, you know, I mean, they are getting a lot of manuscripts for publishing for the general public. Their name comes from the fact that they sell their book through the trade, that is in retail outlets. Okay, if you have written a book that will appeal to a broader audience, then do most monographs, either because of its subjects or because of your approach. You may want to try out your luck with such a trade house. Okay, the relevant publishers are most of the giants, the HarperCollins, Simon Schuster, and that kind of people actually, as well as some independent trade houses are also there, like W.W. Norton or John Wiley. Okay, but we are not encouraging people to publishing in trade publishers. Especially the people actually those who want to publish their scholarly work. And university centers and learned societies. Often university affiliated institutions, centers publish their books in their specific fields, although sometimes their publishing is limited to research that they have sponsored. But many learned societies and many university centers, they publish their they publish books which have been based on their research sponsored by that particular university center. That is a good way to publish your book for a small specialized audience, but not for the general public. The production varies in elaborateness from paperbacks to spiral bound books, typesets with a laser printer to regular typeset, case bound, jacketed books, that kind of things actually, but they are not targeting many audience, only quite a few audience. Only quite a few, sellers, because that is the main objective of their this, publishing is to disseminate the information what we have found from our research studies. And some series are refereed, others are not. But basically, if it is based on research, these research are refereed definitely. But sometimes they invite some of the very prestigious people in the university itself to write some books and some small reports. Okay, so some series are refereed, others are not. Some of these groups have distribution arrangement with university presses, and also sometimes they pay royalties, but not always. Not always. Very rarely they pay royalties. You should not neglect these organizations, particularly for the specialized work if you do have. Okay, and vanity presses. What are the vanity presses? Actually, sometimes we call them predatory publishers. Often university affiliated institutions and centers publish books in their special field, although sometimes their publishing is limited to research they have sponsored. That is big issue. So this is a good way to publish your book for a small specialized audience. Okay. Yeah, the vanity presses, sometimes we call them predatory publishers. Okay, sometimes or subsidized publishers. They charge authors money to publish their books. That is the the main characteristic that we can see from these vanity pressures. If the author is willing to pay, they are willing to publish. There is no editorial or expert judgment centers. There is no editorial or expert refereeing process, and for this reason, publication by a vanity press carries no prestige and no clout with tenure committees. So if you have published in these vanity publishers, there is nothing to bring back to your prestige, and that kind of the publications will not be considered by the selection committees. Okay, nor does it bring riches, because you are paying to all the publication cost plus a profit to the publisher. So that is the main drawback, because you can't be richer, because you have to pay from your own wallet, and that is not for the production cost. That's that's for the profit of their the profit for the publisher too. Your book will not be reviewed in a reputable publication, so stocked by booksellers. You can't find your books from booksellers. If you just want to see your work printed and bound and can afford to pay handsomely for it, there is no harm done. but there is no benefit either. So that is the big main drawback of vanity presses. Okay, and how do you spot a vanity presses? Anyone who advertise, writers, publish your book in no time flat is a vanity publisher. And vanity presses are not listed in literary marketplace or the annual directory of publishing houses and the other literary services. You have to make sure, if you want to, spot out a vanity publisher, you can, check literary marketplace or the annual directory of publishing houses. Okay. If you do not detect the nature of the press earlier, it will certainly be clear in the contract. You have to, very carefully read the contract, what they have written, what they have, prepared for us to sign. Okay. And some publishers sit on the border between genuine scholarly publishing and vanity publishing. Some publishers, they are between these vanity publishing and the genuine publishing, and they claim to offer peer review. Normally they will tell you that we do have a peer review process, but in fact their review procedure are nominal and their editorial committees are only just rubber stamps. They will just tell you that we do have peer reviewing process, but they are just only for the rubber stamp, and they are not really reviewing the process. They require author subventions on virtually every title to their title they publish. Author's money they require. If you are in a doubt about a publisher, either steer clear or ask hard questions from them. For example, what percentage of the manuscript submitted to them do they publish? Will receive reprise report. What are the examples for reprise reports? Then you can determine whether they are vanity publishers or not. Okay, that is very important because a lot of the young researchers are being trapped by these vanity publishers, and then ultimately they publish their book, but nothing comes back. Self-publishing, the another one is that is also cheaper than vanity presses, but like vanity presses, it offers no prestige and provides no independent review of the quality of your book. That is a big problem. A lot of author publications fall into this category. That's a big problem. And there are 3 types of self-publishing services on the web. There are 3 types of self-publishing services on the web. The one is print-on-demand technology. Print-on-demand technology, those that use the vanity press business model. That is also same as vanity press business model. Those that merely assist self-publishers, and those do not charge authors any fee, but they ask very high prices for their books. There are some, websites. Then we can publish our manuscripts there. Okay, but they don't pay for us, but they sell our books at a very high cost. They sell our things at very high cost. The first variety claims copyright into the work and charges authors for publishing services, which are usually limited to production. Okay. And the first variety claims copyright in the work, and they claim copyright in the work and charges authors for publishing services, which are usually limited to production. Okay, the second makes no claims on the author's copyright. They don't make claims on the author's copyright. They charge us a fee for publishing services, editing, designing, product producing, and marketing. For those kind of things, they are charging from the authors, and helps the author create electronic files ready for printing on demand. Printing on demand in the sense, if somebody is asking, if there is a, the demand for that particular book, if somebody is asking, if somebody is, trying to buy a copy, then only, that they print the book. Print one copy of the book. That is on print on demand. Okay. The third, accept without review dissertations. theses, and other academic manuscripts and print and binds them on demand. Editing and designing are minimal and non-existent. So basically, the lot of the spam emails that you might have seen coming every day. If you have prepared a dissertation or thesis or any other academic manuscript, they are asking, okay, give your manuscript, we will publish and we will give the royalty and all, but you will never get royalty. Okay, one example is Lab Publishing. And Lulu Publishing, and there are many organizations like that. If you even though you have published your thesis and all there, you will get nothing because it's a vanity publisher, it's a predatory publisher. They provide authors with a few free copies and pay small royalty on any book sold. Some people may pay very small royalty actually, any book sold, but majority 99% of the books will not get any royalty. They generally charge about a small amount of money for their book, and it is unclear who buys them. But choosing a publisher, the most important issue in choosing a publisher is whether the press publishes in your field. So first we need to see whether this particular press publishes in your field. No matter how good your philosophy manuscript, for an example, if you do have a philosophy manuscript, no matter how good your philosophy manuscript is, a press that has not published philosophy for a decade is a bad bet. Okay, that it's a bad bet. Make a list of 10 or 15 finding publishers for scholarly book, and then you have to decide, which one is the best. Also look through Literary Marketplace and the directory of the Association of American University Presses. Then you can find the very good publishers. If you have written an economics work, then a publisher that produces a series of economics or that lists a star member whose title is economic editor is likely to prospect. Okay, the annual directory of Association of the University Presses that do have the list of subjects and the good publishers as well, that the information can be easily get from the AAUP website. What is the next task? And that is very important one. It is to compose a letter. You need to compose a letter and supporting document to send to prospective publisher. That the letter that you have to prepare should have be a maximum of the 2 pages, and 1 page is okay, but maximum 2 pages, and it should provide a brief summary of your manuscript and the audience to whom you expect to appeal and what is unique, important or exciting about your manuscript. So these 3 aspects should be clearly elaborated in your piece of work, in your piece of letter, if you want to publish your manuscript. Okay. In addition to the letter, you should send the table of contents. Okay, table of content of your manuscript, or list just the numbers of the tables and illustrations, a brief summary or a narrative outline. Sometime the introduction will serve, a sample chapter, and a curriculum vitae of yourself. That is important. So these are the documents that they really that we really need to prepare and send to the publishers for them to take a decision, make a decision. Letters of introduction or endorsement can be used when trying to interest publishers in your work. You can use the letter of introduction or endorsement some other people, the prestigious people, to impress the others. If a scholar who has published with the press or who is well known in your field writes such a letter, the acquisition editor will pay attention. Basically the manuscripts are screened by acquisition editor, and your documents are screened by acquisition editor. Then if you can, submit all these documents, the acquisition editor can determine whether you do have, potential to publish. For such a letter to be useful, however, the writer must be both familiar with your manuscript and able to endorse it sincerely. That is very important. Okay, I mean, if you do have a manuscript, which have been endorsed by a person actually who has not in that particular field what you have written, then nobody will recognize it. If you do have a philosophy book, philosophy manuscript, but it has been endorsed by an economist, then there is no value. There is no value. You will do more harm than good by forwarding a vague letter saying only that you are an awfully nice person who has undoubtedly done a good job. That brings, will do more harm than, if you do have, if you are forwarding a vague letter, that you will get, more harm. Okay. Once you have gotten responses indicating interest of your manuscript from the acquisition editor, you need to decide where to send it first. Okay, you can judge publishers by the quality of what they publish and how well they make their products. So look closely at recent books they have issued. Okay, then you can determine whether the productions are in good quality, whether productions are better. Productions are in a better marketplace. Are they well designed and readable, easily readable, legible? Are they well manufactured? Are they books that you would like to see on a shelf next to yours? You can determine all these things. And ask people who have published with various presses about their experiences. Was the refereeing handled promptly and fairly? How many days or how many months it has taken, that kind of things. Did editing begin soon after acceptance? Were they pleased? Were they pleased with the quality of the editing? Would they submit their next manuscript to the same publisher or go for elsewhere, someone else? Ask more than one author per press, because the authors can experience vary. So you can ask, many authors from a press, then you can get an idea about what the quality is of that particular press. Sometimes publishers will accept a manuscript contingent on authors hiring on author's editor or revise it. Publishers, once we have received the referee reports, we will have to edit according to the feedback that the referees have given. So we need to edit it. Okay, sometimes we can't edit the language and all, then we will have to hire editors for language editing or proofreading. Pressers do this when they believe that the manuscript content is valuable, but that the writing and organization need more editorial work than they are willing to contribute. Sometimes pressers are doing that kind of things. If they believe that your manuscript is in good condition, that your manuscript is of worthwhile for publishing. But this editing may be costly. But if it is the only way of securing acceptance, it will be worth the expense. It will be worth the expense, and that is very important. Ask the publisher to suggest 2 or 3 editors and call each one. That is the the very easiest way of getting your work edited, because that the publisher has good experience with dealing with the editors, and their work, the quality of their work have already been determined by the determined by the publisher. So then it's good if you can ask from the publisher to suggest 2 or 3 editors who can help you for editing your piece of work. Okay, and I have put a publication process here, and you can see, the start and your proposal is externally reviewed, and then, the prepare, that it goes to editorial assistant, then copy editing, then once the copy editing the production, it goes to production editor, and there should be, process that one. And you can see, the first one is, how do I call it, the green colored one, commissioning, and then, the yellowish one, production, and then the next one is, sales and marketing. Orange color, sales and marketing. So this is the process. And the 16, cages you can see over here, and all these, phrases must have been adopted, must have been gone through. Okay. And submitting the manuscript, although the journal editors or the book editors generally prefer electronic, submission, book publishers require hard copy. Book publishers require hard copy, because that is what their peer reviewers expect. They don't like electronic submissions. They like only hard copies. Sometimes you will be asked to produce 2 or 3 copies for their reference process. And university presses and other scholarly publishers base their publishing decisions largely on the opinions of consulting scholars, and trade houses often consult outside experts. Okay. Although this discussion refers mainly to university presses, it applies to the other publishers as well. When a publisher receives a manuscript, an editor reads, the acquisition editor read it to see whether it seems suitable for the press. Acquisition editor first read it and see whether it seems suitable for the press, to judge the quality of the writing and the amount of editing like to be required, and to decide what sort of expert reader is needed. Then the acquisition editor basically read the manuscript to determine whether it's suitable for press, and then he or she decide whether quality of writing of a manuscript and the amount of editing like to be required is minimal. The quality of writing is good and the amount of editing like to be required is minimal. And also, he or she decide what sort of expert reader is needed for a reference process. Okay. A manuscript may be rejected on the basis of the reading. The acquisition editor may reject your manuscript with the basis of this reading, usually because it will not fit into the presser's publishing program. If you do have, if you do have a bad quality of writing, and if you do have, a lot of mistakes which need more editing, if they can't find out, the particular experts for a reference process, and if your work has, the no worth of, then acquisition editor may reject your piece, your manuscript. Okay, a manuscript may be rejected on the basis of this reading because it does not fit into the presser's publishing program. Some pressers work up a financial analysis of the book, especially the commercial organizations, commercial pressers. So they do have a financial analysis, to determine whether once your work is published, whether they will get more financial benefits, whether they can make profits. So financial analysis is very important for them. They estimate production cost and likely sales and see what they likely investment and return will be. Other pressers wait until they have made a tentative or firm positive decision before doing this analysis. A financial analysis can result in rejection. If financial analysis, found that your work will not gain, financial benefits for the publisher, then it will be rejected. It will be rejected. That is basically done by the finance editors. Okay. And particularly if your book is full of tables or illustration and likely to have very limited sales. Okay. If your book is full of tables and illustrations, then it's likely to have very limited sales. So then, if sales are very limited, it will be rejected, at the manuscript stage. If the manuscript survives in house reading and financial analysis, it's sent to specialists in their field known as referees. The evaluation of the first referee often determines the press final decision. A convincing, well-stated argument for rejection usually carries the day. Okay, and if the manuscript is, if the manuscript is passed by the reading, in-house reading, and the financial analysis, then the next step is to send for referees. And once the referee evaluate your manuscript, it comes back to the editorial panel. Comes back to the editorial panel, and then they review all these things, review all these comments, and give you the feedback for revising your work. A positive review will generally lead to second reading. Okay, and sometime before that, actually, for all these things, the first reader, if first reading says it's good, then it goes to second reading sometime. Okay, and if the reader disagree, the press will either seek a third opinion, sometimes sending along the two conflicting reports, or else resolve the matter by making its own evaluation of the two reports. Okay, excessive undocumented praise or condemnation is suspect. Okay, a publisher wants to careful rational reading rather than a gut reaction. Publisher wants a careful rational reading rather than a gut reaction. Okay, that is their main requirement. Basically, so they ask, readers to answer the questions regarding their originality and value, and scholarship, purpose, and the market, competing works, style, organization, special features, and do they have any suggestions for improving the manuscript? Do they recommend that the manuscript to be published? That kind of things. Normally these 10 questions are being posed to the readers. Based on the answers, they decide. Okay, then transfer copyrights. As the author, your work, you have your own copyright. But most publishing contracts require author to transfer or assign the copyright to the publisher. We have to, even though that is our own product, we have to, transfer our copyrights to the publisher, because then they are the owners. This means that all rights that will become the publishers. Okay. These include, but are not limited to, the rights to publish the book in English and all other languages, to publish experts or condensations in magazines, and to adopt their film and to adopt it for films and all. And but for everything, actually, publishing in other languages, publishing, the excerpts, and then condensations in magazines, and maybe, the developing films and television. So everything is there, but everything is there, in the copyright. It's not legally necessary to transfer the copyright. You can instead grant only certain right to the publishers, but not all. Okay. For example, you might grant publisher only the right to publish a book in hardbound edition in the English language. There are, different ways of, the transferring the copyrights. But some of the publishers, they don't allow these, partial submissions. They need, a full transfer of copyrights. Okay, full transfer of copyrights. Transfer of copyrights not eternal, so it's not for all the time. It's not, perpetual, and they can be terminated in two ways. First, the contract may provide the termination. It can be, indicated in the contract specifically how to do that. And the second, it based on the copyrights law of the country. If sometime, in Sri Lanka, even after 75 years, there is no validation of copyright transfers, that kind of things. And some other countries after 35 or 40 years, however, most of the damages is done. So include the termination clause in the contract is to our benefits. Okay, termination returns to you only the basic publication rights plus any other not yet sold or licensed. For example, if your publisher has sold the Italian publishing rights, the contract continues in force for its full term despite your termination of the assignment of copyright form from which it was derived. Okay. And specific rights, the most basic right involved in a book contract is the right of publication, of offering copies to public. Okay, the contract will grant the publisher the exclusive right to publish your work in book form. In return, the publisher will pay you a royalty. Okay, they will. Once they have published, and once they have the sold items from each and every copy, they will give you a royalty. Okay, that indicates the contractual agreement what we have signed at first. The royalty system is a financial expression of the idea that the fates of author and publisher are inextricable. Royalties generally paid once or twice a year, begin sometime after production depending on the publisher's accounting year. So basically royalties can be gained once or twice a year. Okay, but that's depend on the volume of sales. Okay, volume of sales, because they give the royalty from the revenue that they have collected. Okay, that they have collected. And royalty rates are very negotiable, vary and negotiable. Okay, and we can negotiate with the publishers. I need, I need 10% of the royalty, 10% of the revenue. 10% of the revenue of the total books sold. That kind of things, can be negotiated. They are calculated as a percentage, either of retail price or net revenues. You can ask, from each and every book, we need, 10%, or we can say the publisher from the net revenues, I need 10%. That kind of things. But regardless of the base on which royalties are calculated, the range of royalties begin at 0. Sometimes publishers simply do not pay royalties on some books. Some pay royalties, but only after a certain number of books. First, the 500 or 1,000 books have been sold will not gain any single penny of royalty, they would say. And after 1,000 or after 500, then you will get royalty. Likewise, they do have, some regulations, but all these things are being clearly indicated in the contractual agreement itself. Okay. In addition to royalties or fees, an author may receive payments from the publisher that represent the author's share of rights sold or licensed to others. That can also be possible. The contract will state what percentage of the proceeds the author gets from the sale of such rights. Okay. Subventions. Many university presses receive subsidies from private foundation or government agencies or funding bodies. But for a long time, some presses hesitated to seek outside money with string attached, because they have to, they have obligations to those organizations, those who have sponsored, because of the string attached. So they don't like it, and that fearing loss of control or integrity. For an example, if a foundation of government agency offered a press $50,000 to publish book in economics, might the publisher not select more economic books than otherwise? That may be possible. Or even accept inferior work to avoid losing the gift. Okay. Some commercial scholarly publishers in lieu of the cash subvention, asks for commitment of the part of the author's university bookstore to publish certain number of copies, presumably for sales as textbooks. This seems more problematic than a cash subvention. If the book is really textbook, it should be published as such and should be used in course other than the authors. Okay. Working with an editor, when your manuscript is accepted with final revisions completed, the acquisition editor and managing editor will review it and decide whether it is ready to go into production. Acquisition editor and managing editor decide whether it is ready to go into the production. At this stage, the manuscript must contain all your revisions and responses to the readers and editor's comment. That is very, very important. Okay, that is very, very important. Some publishers employ production editors or project managers who oversee manuscript editing, design, and manufacturing process. The production editor is your liaison with the copy editor, the designer, and the manufacturers. The production editor is particularly important to authors when the press uses freelance copy editors. Okay, because sometimes the presses uses freelance copy editors to edit your work, or sometimes they will ask you to find editors and edit. Then the production editor is very important actually, because production editor will go through all these edited work and decide whether editing is comparatively good before publishing. If there are a lot of errors, they won't allow you to publish. After publication, even after publication, your relationship with the publisher continues. Printers will send copies of your reviews to the publisher, who will forward them to you. You will get annual sales figures and royalty reports. So even after the publication, you will have to liaise with the publisher for getting royalties, for getting to know about the sales revenues and all these kind of things. Okay, and I have shown you here AU Press subject areas. Great. And then you can see the membership, even the publishers, because that is basically maintained by the Association of University Presses. Okay, you can find very prestigious, the reputable publishers from here. And when we go through the Sri Lanka by Springer, Taylor, Francis Belgrave, World Bank, Edward Delga, we can find a very few publications so far. That we have gathered it from working for com. Okay, quite a very, few authors have published, a few Sri Lankan authors have published, even though we do have a lot of academics over here. Okay, when we are preparing a book for publishing in Sri Lanka, there's the very good book which have been prepared by the National Library, and it's in Sinhala. I think English copy is also there. Grantha Sakasme Kramaveda. You can get a copy of it, and you can prepare your manuscript according to the way that they have indicated. And then, it's very important. If you want to, publish a book, you have to, get an ISBN. That is also get from the National Library. That's very important because that is a unique number that your work has been assigned. And it's global. When you go through the ISBN, you can see the first 3 digits tells us this is an ISBN. Then identifies the country, then the publisher identification, and IDs of the title, edition and format, barcode price, mon, that later, and check digits and all. Because I know, a lot of people, they don't get ISBN and they put, something. Because I've seen some of those Sri Lankan authors, they have, produced some books. But there's an ISBN. But the people, those who know about ISBN very clearly, they can understand whether this is a real ISBN or fake ISBN, what the author has created. So we've got, many instances when we are evaluating the publications for VC awards and all. Some publishers, they have given, the wrong ISBN without getting proper ISBN from the ISBN agency. Okay, that should not be done. Then we need to, get CIPs. That's also can be taken from National Library. That is cataloging in publication. But I don't want to, describe it. Perhaps, you might have seen the Devi decimal numbers and all. But that kind of things can be provided, will be provided by National Library. For this particular book, you can see you can see in the bottom 07.5 DV23. According to DV23, this has been classified as 073. That is, the important that CIP can be taken from the National Library. Okay. In each and every country, there's a legal deposit law, and there is a national collection based on national information and national bibliographic control policies. Okay, so when considering the legal deposit of law and tradition of Sri Lanka, the National Printers and Publishers Ordinance of 1885, number 1, specify that all publishers should be registered under the law of National Archives Office of Sri Lanka. That is very important. So when you have published, a book, it is very important to, deposit 5 copies in one in National Archives, one in National Library, one in University Peradeniya Library, one in University of Brunei Library, and one in National Museum Library. So 5 copies should be given. Okay. And the concerns, according to the UGC concerns this time, they are concerning who are the how do I call it actually? Reputed publishers. How do we decide the reputed publishers? Basically, we can, check whether the book has been given an ISBN number, that there's a, the global register for ISBN number. So we can, go to that particular website and see whether the book has been given an ISBN number. And also, there's another concern at UGC level. If the book is indexed, then we don't need to, we don't need to worry about their reputation. If the book is indexed in the Scopus of Web of Science, the candidates must submit evidence of the book, evidence of the index. Okay, Scopus of Web of Science, then there is no question about the reputation. That is the reputed, the books which have been indexed in Scopus of Web of Sciences, that is one of the very, it may be a very prestigious book, because otherwise these Scopus and Web of Science do not index books in their websites. Okay, if the book is not indexed in either Scopus or Web of Science, there are some concerns. Okay, that we will have to go through. For an example, the book should be available in retail market, and then the book can be purchased, then at least, you know, I mean, more than 500 copies should be produced. That kind of things, you know, we need to, you know, I mean, particularly see whether to determine whether the publisher is reputable or not. Okay, these are the things that I want to, you know, bring to your attention. But I know, you know, it's like, you know, like a train actually. I mean, I don't know whether you could understand what I was trying to say. And if you do have, but anyway, if you do have questions, but we can have a workshop type of, you know, I mean, things, you know, if you want to, you know, get some more clarifications and elaborations. So, you know, some, I mean, hands-on work. Otherwise, you know, I mean, this kind of how do you call online sessions will not be, you know, very much useful for the people, those who wants to, you know, I mean, get a deeper understanding. Okay, any questions?
Dr. Jason, you categorize love. Am I audible?
I can't hear you correctly.
Hello. How about now?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay. Dr. Jason, you will elaborate the different categories of publishers, and we will understand that, and at the same time, some of the categories or publishers comes under categories such as or self-publishing should be avoided. That we understood very well. And I have one concern about publishing books by the centers of universities. And when it comes to Wayamba University's Staff Development Center, we do publish some books. And are we become recognized publishers?
That's you know, I mean, a big question actually. But basically, if you want to be a publisher, we have to register as a publisher. That should be done by the university. But in other universities, actually, according to my experience, especially the you know, I mean, the publishing houses which have been registered in you know, as a commercial organization have been done by registrar of that university. Yeah, that is, you know, I mean, that is very important actually, because otherwise there will be no recognition for the piece of work what we have, you know, produced. And the second thing is the basic requirements need to be fulfilled. The first one is peer reviewing process should be there. And the second thing, author publisher agreement should also be there. If we can have, you know, these two requirements, particularly with ISBN and all, then, you know, I mean, if we can register as a publisher in the, you know, I mean, in the Association of Publishers or somewhere, as well as, you know, in the government organization, then there is no issue for us to be a publisher. Otherwise, our name will not go to the, I mean, Global Directory of Publishers. That's the issue, because many universities now publish, but they are not reputable publishers, because there is no, you know, formal procedures established in the university itself. I think the best way of, you know, establishing that kind of thing, so we can, you know, prepare a you know, guidelines or something like that actually at the Senate level, and get it approved from the council, and then, you know, we can start up a business. I mean, you know, the publishing house like this, as the other organizations, as the other universities around the world.
The publishing house must be a registered kind of a business, right? Am I correct?
Yes, exactly.
Okay. Thank you. And I think your explanation gave the answer for the next question as well. Thank you so much.
Do Sri Lankan publishers undergo the same peer review, reviewing process as in international
No,
publishers?
not any single publisher, except some of the learned societies like professional organizations and the National Library. But all these, the publishers like Godage, and there are, the many, but they don't have, pre-review process at the moment. And there is no, sometime, there is no author agreement even, author publisher agreement either. So that is the issue.
I have another question. Should we contact the publisher before we make the manuscript, or should we complete the manuscript and then find the
that is possible actually, but the only thing that we can get, get an idea from the publisher whether they would happy to publish our manuscript. After that, we can prepare the manuscript actually, but only the the idea that we can gain at the beginning is whether they would like to publish our activity, our piece of work, our manuscript in that particular field of area.
Can you suggest a couple of publishers to who can publish science and technology?
In
book?
Sri Lanka, we can't find any actually, but Elsevier, even Oxford, Cambridge, and then there are many good publishers in India too, and all these publishing houses do have their subsidiaries in India as well. So if we can approach them, that is easier to publish.
But if our intention is local readers, what would be the best suggestion?
Yeah, if it is for the local readers, at the moment actually we do not have reputable publishers which have been registered and adopting these procedures clearly. That's the big issue. But the universities are the best place for publishing, but they need to do some of the things before they accepting publications. That's what actually I asked, get guidelines and get it approved from the Senate level, and it goes to the council, and then we can register our university as a publisher. Easily. Then of course we don't have any issue, because the recognition would definitely come for a university, because there's very formal procedures for publishing. Yeah. But all the other commercial organizations like Godage or other places, they do only the concentrate on their profit. So there is no peer reviewing process at all. They publish whatever we have given them. That is the issue. But sometimes some learned organizations, the professional organization, the Institute of Chemistry, or I don't know, ISL, or all these places, they do have the recognition, but the only way of doing it is very formal. That formal procedure should be adopted, and it should be documented clearly. Then there is no issue to be a recognized publisher. And it goes to the Global Registry of Publishers as well.
Okay, thank you.
Hello, I'm Calum here.
Yeah.
I don't know whether this background sound is disturbing because I'm in a bus. I have 3 questions.
Yeah.
So the first one is, without having the recognition, without being a recognized publisher, can we have a ISBN number? Because when we are publishing a book, right, by the university, right, when we are applying for ISBN, so we get it, although we are not an accepted publisher.
Yeah. Yeah, that's possible actually, because ISBN just give us a unique number. They don't want to see whether the publisher is reputable.
Okay. The second one is,
but only my question is actually, but a lot of people, they don't get ISBN, but they use fake ISBN for their publications. And I saw some of the publication very recently that they have produced. They are not there. They have actually the publishers do not know. They don't know that they have never published that one, but book indicates that the publisher is this. That kind of things are being, that kind of things are happening. That's, completely wrong. And the second thing is, a lot of people don't understand the difference between printer and publisher. Printer is just, doing a printing part. But publisher is entirely different. Publisher has a, big right to produce a good product. And a lot of people, they use, the printers as publishers. But that is, that's, completely wrong. And, the people, those who are evaluating, they know, the difference between these two. For an example, Vidyalankara printers. Vidyalankara is not a publisher.
My second question is, lot of professional organizations, they are publishing scientific journals and their annual abstracts in annual symposia. But actually they are not publishers. So then what is the recognition of these journals and the publication?
Yeah, the journal publication and book publications are two different, aspects. Journal publications, but if the journal is being published by a professional organization which has been recognized, okay, that is their professional publication, the professional journal. It's been recognized, but even though it's recognized, it's not an index journal. Can you understand what I'm trying to say? It may be,
Yes.
the recognized journal, but it's not an index journal. If the journal needs to be indexed, it should definitely be indexed in Scopus or Web of Science. So, some other indices which have been recognized by the University Grant Commission. But in Sri Lanka, quite a few journals have been indexed in Scopus. I think, yeah, others are normal scholarly publications, but generally these publications will not be recognized by the outsiders.
But there are some other indexes, FAO and some other. So what about that? Those journals are indexing those. Indexes.
Yeah, according to the UGC circulars, even the professorial marking scheme and all, they do recognize only the Scopus index journals. Especially the science site. What's that? Actually, Web of Science.
Web of Science.
Web of Science index journals. Yes. Now they have a discussion with expanding it towards Scopus too. I don't know when it will happen, but now there's a big discussion at standing committee levels, and even drafting a circular for what's that? Reputable publishers for books.
Thank you.
Mr. Jaiswal, if I say like this is correct, publisher is the one who should bear the cost of publication while doing reviewing, etc.
Sorry?
Publisher is the one who bear the cost of publication. I mean,
Yeah.
printing and all that.
Yeah. If the publisher is very reputable, they don't pass the cost to author. They bear the cost actually. They bear the cost. For all, the publication process. So they can't, ask authors to share the cost.
Okay, thank you.
But only the vanity publications, the predatory publications, they are asking money from us. That is the difference. Lambert publishers, likewise, that kind of people. Lab Publishing, Lulu, Green. Okay, thank you.
And any other question from the audience?
A last question. What about
Yes.
self-publishing? What is the process of self-publishing?
Self-publishing can be done by, the ourselves, we can find a printer and, do the publishing. That's normally called, author publishing. And also, we can do self-publishing from using the, websites which have been, created by some other organization like Amazon. Okay. But only thing is, I don't know whether we are getting anything. But but they are not being recognized as reputable publishers even, because whatever we provide, they publish. There is no peer reviewing process. There is no big agreement between authors and publishers. So that is the big mistake of self-publishing.